Doc Slab Audio on music production and audio engineering. Welcome to Doc Slab Audio and our 6th Masters series. I do believe this is the second video in our 6th Master series, Session Templates. And in this video, we want to talk about something directly related to our session templates, and that is presets and FX chains. So if you've really dug into my channel and you're really refining yourself at this point, that the next obvious thing that we want to talk about is your session templates and your presets and your FX chains. So first of all, we'll talk about presets. Presets are huge because there's a couple different reasons. The first reason is that no matter what phase you are in your production, that you have a really good arsenal of presets that really work well for you, the way you hear things and the way you like to get things done. And on top of it, there's a couple of things that does. The first thing it does is that you have things that you can just open and go. I mean, having a huge arsenal of presets mean you're dealing with bass, you're dealing with guitar, you're dealing with vocals, you're dealing with whatever, that you can just open up a preset, drop it in there, do a little bit of tweaking, do it not much, and you're good to go. And it helps your workflow and your tempo as you're working. And on top of it, what it does is, more than likely from what I've seen, is it improves you as an engineer, because once you start down that path, that you will be adding more presets all the time, and you're more likely to take a preset, like this is a preset that I have on here, and you're more likely to spend a little bit more time going, nah, well, that preset's great on this vocal, but I'm going to drop that down a little bit. In this mix, it sounds a little bit better. I'm going to kick that up a little bit. You're more likely to spend the time doing all the other things well that I talked about in all my master series, because sometimes there's every moment in time matters, and you got to adjust things differently for different moments in time, and you're more likely to spend the time doing a good job if you've got a really good arsenal of presets to start out with. Does that make sense? So it's huge for you to work on. There's lots of presets a lot of times that come with your plugins, that you can use as starting points. But more than likely, you're going to want to tweak them to your own individual taste. Just spend the time naming them well. You've got, you might have 30 presets for vocals, that for different situations or different types of mixes or different types of productions. Name them well so it's not just some kind of mess that it's like, nah. Does that make sense? But they're huge because it's really going to help refine you as an engineer, because as you go along, you've got this preset for this EQ, and all of a sudden you realize that this preset's great, it's doing something that you're used to doing, and you're getting into this thing and you go, yeah, but I'm doing this different situation. I'm going to kick that down a little bit. I'm going to boost that up a little bit. I'm going to drop that way down, and then I'm going to rename that preset for this other situation. Bam! You just got a whole nother gun in your arsenal. Does that make sense? That saves you so much time. Just take your time in those situations, name things really well as options for what you might be doing. It's going to save you time. It's going to improve your workflow. It's going to improve your work tempo, and it'll improve you as an engineer in time. It just will. And the bigger bunch of arsenal of presets you have, the better. That if they're well designed and they're categorized well for the different situations you might be working in, different types of productions, different type of instruments and things like that, it's huge. So really spend the time there designing them. You can get starters from your plugins, from whoever designed your plugins, from forums, designing yourself, getting ideas from them, and then you adjusting them to how they work better for you. And, really spend some time there. Don't think it's a waste of time. You really spending a lot of time there and refining that and refining your arsenal of presets is huge, because when you're going along through any phase of your production, it's just drop and go, bro. You drop that preset on there, you might tweak it just a little bit. Nah, that ain't one ain't working. Try this other preset. Nah, tweak it a little bit. Yeah, dude. Oh, that sounds awesome. Off you go. Instead of dying in front of the mixing board all the time, trying to tweak stuff all the times. Now, your most important presets are going to be for things like your equalization, your spatialization, reverberation, and things like that, and sound sculpting are normally your biggest things. And I talked about that in my second master series a lot. But you still get into things like, delays are huge. Things like delay, echo effects, those are huge, and getting a good arsenal of presets for that is huge. Things like other effects like choruses, flangers, phasers, they add different textures to things going on. And at one moment, it might, a preset you have on your chorus works great on this acoustic guitar during this production. So I've made a preset for it, and it's like, oh yeah, and I've really spent some time there with them, because it might not work in a different situation, but it does here, and it's just like, oh yeah, it just makes it sound nice and full and lush, and oh yeah, good to go. Or you're working in strings with some strings in orchestra, and you've got this violin, and you got this preset, on whatever, that just gives it a little bit of bite, or gives it a little bit of more lower end, or muddies it up just a little bit to where it's like, oh yeah, it just kind of feels a nice wash in the background, and oh yeah, dude. That's a lot you're processing. Sometimes I say go light on your processing, but sometimes you got a lot of presets, because sometimes you want to add a little bit of something to make it just right in this production, or in this mix, or in this song, or whatever. And it's huge. So really spend the time there with your presets, and really hone your abilities there, and really experiment and practice, and get a really good arsenal with whatever type of processor or effects you have or you're used to using. I mean, spend the time there. Don't be afraid to have 100, 200 presets on your equalizer for different situations. High, low pass filters, equal loudness contours, low end work, upper end work, violins, bass, guitar, vocals, whatever you might be working with. And create a really good, well organized arsenal, and categorized really well, of the things you do. It might sound like it's time you're not producing, but the more time you spend there, as you're using them in your productions, you'll go, oh, well, I got this preset of my EQ, but in this situation, it's a little different, and I'm going to more likely spend a little more time adjusting that there, kicking that up some more there for this situation, and then making a whole new preset. Oh yeah, in this production I did this rock thing, and I really went with this thing, and the vocals needed that, and it just, with a male vocal rock, grunge thing, and it's like, spend your time categorizing things really well. That way it's just bop and go. It's like, bam, that was the one I did in that production. It came out sounding awesome. Bam, on in there. Man, this production doesn't sound quite right. I'm going to have to drop that down a bit. I'm going to have to tweak that just a little bit. And not, oh yeah, right there, bro. Off you go. It's huge. And once you get done really working on that, the other thing is FX chains, which are a little more complex, but having a really good arsenal of FX chains, so you can just drop and go, so that whenever you're sitting there, then you've got some kind of FX chain that, no matter whether it's a simple FX chain or whether it's a huge FX chain, just because there's a lot of stuff on the FX chain doesn't mean you're doing heavy processing. You might be doing light processing in a lot of different areas to have this effect that, like on that FX chain, when I'm mastering, oh yeah, right there, bro. Or when I'm processing vocals, or when I'm creating synth pads or violin sections, that is pretty close, bro. And you go, well, in this production it might be a little different, and I got this high-low pass, or I'm going to have to bring that in for that guitar, and I'm going to have to bring that a little bit in and to tighten that up a little bit. And oh yeah, right there. Oh yeah, dude. And you're more likely to make that another preset. being a better engineer and doing a really good job, which means you might have a huge arsenal of presets and FX chains, but it's going to improve your productions immensely, because it's like you go in there from scratch doing all this stuff to a vocal every time is retarded. It's like, because it's a lot of work. You want to spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours refining this to where that country vocal just came out just smooth as silk, and it's just like, oh yeah, dude. Or you're doing that, you're doing that EDM thing, and toof, toof, whatever's going on, it's like right there, bro. Oh yeah, dude. And it's like, and you're going to more likely do a better job. But on this production, you want to tweak it a little bit. I want to adjust that EQ, the very the chorus I had on there, the whatever of time, effect or processor I was using. You're much more likely to create another preset, and it just builds, right? So you end up with this huge mountain of really good FX chains and presets that are categorized really well for the different kind of things you might be doing, or options to go to do something a little bit different. It's like, well, I'm going to try. I tried on this one guy, I've got this preset, but I used a flanger on this because it added this little texture during this. That is really cool. Then I got this other one, I used chorus, or I used more reverb, or I used EQ a little bit different, or I added a little bit, whatever, that I might have been doing in all areas that you've got drop and go, and then just a little bit of tweaking and off you go. You're much better to have better workflows and have a better tempo as you're moving along, so you don't get frustrated and grind to a halt a lot, or just, you know what I'm saying, and do a better job. You're much more likely to go, well, I've got this huge FX chain that might be light processing, but I'm tweaking things. You're much more likely to go, and this time, I know it's about set up right, but in this production, right there, it needs that little teeny amount off there, and this little teeny amount right there. Yeah, dude, I'm like Frankenstein. Oh, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I know that sounds messed up, but it's true. You're more likely to do better work and make little teeny adjustments to make things as beautiful and as wonderful as you can. Does that make sense? And when you don't need to, you're more likely not to waste hours in the mixing board and becoming that proverbial skeleton. Oh no, 4 hours later, dude. And you're less likely to end up like that. Does that make sense? With a really good, well categorized arsenal of presets and FX chains. So I really do hope you take that to heart and you really spend some time there, digging around, in the presets you have, and rename them, that are come with it, that are stock, going to the forums, people have FX chains and presets they've put together, other, social networks that people get together and trade presets and FX chains for different situations, different instruments, different types of productions, because you have no idea how many times that I've got presets set up for my toms doing some type of processor or effects, and it's like, in this production that's not working, bro, and I need to tweak it, or I make it different because it needs more bite, it needs more twang, it needs more crunch, it needs more some dang thing, bro. And so I start messing around, sweeping around, trying to tweak that tom, where it's like dun 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 ding 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 dun 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 ta ba ta ding 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 right there, dude. Oh yeah, now it sounds awesome in the mix. You know what I'm saying? I know that sounds funny, but it's true. And that's not just with equalization stuff. That can be with effects, with all kinds of things. Even things working like things like Trash 2, trying to add harmonic content, odd or even harmonics, or doing noise, adding a little bit of brown noise. That's not working. There's a bunch of ways to add noise with gates and noise files, and you can also use things like I talked about with noise generators and gates that you can, with an equalizer that you can add. Now that tom's got this, and you got that brown noise mixed in with that gate. Like, oh yeah, dude. And you're making a preset for that, so that you're more likely to do much better productions and do a much better job as an engineer and have things come out much better by really taking that to heart and spending some time there. So peace, hope, love. I certainly hope you enjoyed this next video in our 6th Master series, and I'll see you in the next video.